Hello, Steve 89. Okay, so I watched the first episode of Game of Thrones prequel, The House of the Dragons, or House of the Dragons. I found it to be very dull. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the original show. I didn't start watching it till about 5 years into the show. I watched the first 3 or 4 years on DVD. I bought them all together, watched them all over a long weekend, basically. And I did kind of get sucked into what's going to happen next and the sort of betrayals and so forth. And I mean, I hated the first season because there weren't any dragons or anything. By the time we got started to see some dragons and some fantasy, it made it more worth it. I find Game of Thrones kind of dry. I found it to be more, beheadings and just old. I mean, there wasn't enough fantasy for me. It was just very medieval, and that's about it. And then, of course, the last couple of seasons were a mess where they once they started writing the show for themselves, they really lost the lightning in the bottle that they had with the first few seasons coming from the books, because the books were brilliant, apparently. They at least were well scripted and had some great stories and the twists and turns and, what was going to happen next really held you. The last couple of seasons didn't really work, and I can imagine a lot of people are hesitant about coming back to this universe, back to this world. It's a fairly simple story, not a lot happens. Basically, we have the king who got it over a female, which of course she's a little bitter about. I can't blame her. The assumption is he's going to give the throne to his younger brother eventually. But he sees how wrong this guy is for the throne. He's in charge of the army and he basically runs it like a brutal dictatorship. So he knows this guy shouldn't be the king. So he ends up deciding to give it to his daughter, basically. Concede. Or no, he basically, I think, just names her as the heir. I think that's basically how the episode ends. She's basically named the Princess of Dragonstone or something. And I'm sort of watching it like, does that mean she's the queen, or does she become the queen if he dies? And you just had to pick someone. I wasn't really sure what was happening, honestly. It was really quiet, really dull, really slow, really dark. We saw some dragons, but a couple of the shots didn't look entirely convincing, which I was kind of shocked by. Mostly the dust and that didn't look, that was raising up around, and one shot didn't really look real. We don't see the dragons a lot. We do see them. They fly over the city. But I don't know. I feel like we've seen them. It's like the original Lord of the Rings Game of Thrones, sort of worked up to it. And now it's sort of like, yeah, we've seen dragons basically destroying the whole city. I mean, what more is there? I just found it really kind of dull, and I must admit I was doing other things on my computer. I had other windows up, I was doing other things around the room. She-Hulk I was watching every scene. I was engaged, I was interested in it. I watched every scene. I was expected to be doing other things. I just watched the whole thing. This, I was sort of looking for other things to do and looking at the clock. I think I checked it like 5 times, like, oh my god, it's only 20 minutes in. Oh my god, it's only 38 minutes in. There's an hour and 5 minutes. There's another 25 minutes to go. What's going to happen? Okay, the only thing that does happen in the episode is the queen has difficulty in birth, and her wonderful husband is like, well, gee, she's really only here to birth an heir for me. So, okay, we'll sacrifice it. That's fine, because the doctor is like, well, you kind of have a choice, one or the other. So let's just sacrifice the queen for the prince, because that's what she's here for, to give us a prince. So I mean, God, if she doesn't do that, then she's kind of pointless. So he doesn't really want her either. She just sort of works out as she's being pulled into position. Oh, they're going to cut me open, and the boy is delivered. This while they're having a jousting match. I mean, is there anything stupider than jousting? I mean, 2 men on horses running towards each other with big sticks trying to kill each other. I mean, I'm not a fan of the medieval. I'm not a fan of this era. There's a reason why we evolved out of this era and, got to where we are and are going to get to where we eventually will be. God willing, a Star Trek-like future. I've never really found the appeal of it. It just seemed to be something for insecure little white supremacist guys who sort of need to sort of go back and regress into this sort of past where white men ruled and women had no power and were just objects to be used, and there were no gay people and no coloured people. It was just them ruling everything and being treated like kings and walking around naked in brothels like gods. It's just like, I don't need this. I have no interest in watching this. Maybe if I was a straight man, maybe I'd get something out of this, but I'm not getting much out of it. I watched it just to see, like people were complaining it was House of Diversity. I'm like, they replaced one house, the race of the with a black character. I'm like, wow, there's one black character in this thing and people are upset. Oh my god. Okay. I'm gonna go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. It was slow, it wasn't hugely interesting, it was okay, but I'm just like, I'm not sure. I don't think they've caught lightning in the bottle the second time. I'm not sure they're going to get the same level of interest that they got with the original show. This show just doesn't seem as dynamic, and we've all sort of been burned. So I guess I'll watch the second episode. I'll give it a second episode, but I'm not really engaged. I'm just here for the review. I'm gonna go. Bye.